All right, if everyone can mute, please, we're going to start now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Google Apps for Education Fireside Chat, an introduction to Google Apps Script. We'll be covering what Apps Script is, how it can be used, show some code examples, and have Q&A and discussion today. My name is Jordan Pedraza, and I work on the Google Apps for Education team based in Mountain View, California, our Googleplex headquarters. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions throughout the Hangout, please either submit them on the comment stream of the Hangout, or if you're here with us in the actual Hangout, you can submit them in the chat window, or just ask them after we're done with the presentation. And for those that are actually in the Hangout, we'll ask that you please leave the Hangout and watch via live stream after you've asked a few questions so others can rotate in. This fireside chat will be recorded and posted on the Google and Education page afterwards. Now, let's hand it over to Eric Coletta, Developer Programs Engineer with Google Apps Script in the AdWord API. Eric, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jordan. So hi, everyone. Welcome once again. My name's Eric, and I'm going to start sharing some slides that I prepared about Apps Script, and we'll also be doing some live coding, scary as that is, at the end of the session. So we're going to get to see some Apps Scripts in action. So I'm just going to flip it over to the slides now. All right, can everyone see those slides? Thumbs up if you can see them? Yeah, all right, perfect. All right, so today we're going to be doing an introduction to Apps Script. If you've used Apps Script before, this may be some information you already know, but I just want to cover the bases to make sure that everybody knows what it is, how it works, and you know, where we think the value is. So I've been a developer programs engineer here at Google for the last 3 years, working on Apps Script and the AdWords API. You know, if you want to reach me afterwards, I'm on Google+, Twitter, Stack Overflow, and you can search for me on there, and I'll be able to help you out or answer any other questions you have. So let's just start with what is Apps Script. The formal definition that we have in our homepage is listed here, but you know, it's basically a scripting language built in and integrating tightly with Google products. So, you know, the four things we really think that it has strengths in is automating repetitive tasks. You know, there's a lot of things that in the business world are copy and paste, and we want to try to eliminate some of those. And we also, like I said, we integrate deeply with Google products, but also provide integrations with other third-party services or your own internal services. So it really is a hub of information and technology. You know, where it all got started, and it's still one of the most common uses for building custom spreadsheet functions. Spreadsheet functions that either just do some complex math or pull from external data sources. That's really something that heavy spreadsheet users find Apps Script very useful for. And lastly, you know, we've gone way beyond those early beginnings and now have provided the ability to build rich graphical user interfaces with custom menus. It's really become a platform for building very compelling applications, and we'll show some of that in a bit. So how Apps Script works is you're basically writing code in JavaScript. For those of you not familiar with JavaScript, it's a very popular programming language, and it's actually the core technology that a lot of the modern web applications are built on. So you know, when you're on Facebook, when you're on a Google product, there's JavaScript behind all of that that makes it work, and that same language is what powers Apps Script. And the other great thing about Apps Script is that there's a ton of learning materials available. So if you are not very large, if you haven't done a lot of coding in the past or just haven't done JavaScript, there's plenty of information out there to help you get started. One of the ones I listed to here, Code Academy, I've gone through recently just to see what it was like, and it was very good step-by-step directions kind of guiding you through the process. And like I mentioned, there's built-in methods for accessing Google services, so you don't have to use very complex setup or use sort of worry about authentication or things like that. When you want to integrate with a Google service, it's just a few keystrokes away. It's very simple to do so, and we'll be demonstrating some of that later on. And like I mentioned, for external data sources, we know that not every piece of information you need to work with is in Google Apps just yet. So we have integrations with external databases, pulling in XML files and working with XML, as well as calling all sorts of web services. If you have other products or other applications that you're using that provide a web service, you can integrate those as well. So here we're just going to take a look at what a small piece of AppScript code looks like and kind of show what we're doing. So here's a function I created in AppScript called sendMap. And what we're doing with the first two lines here is we are getting the active spreadsheet. So this script is run within a spreadsheet. Getting the active spreadsheet object, and then pulling out the value that's in the cell A2. You can see my cell here is 76 9th Avenue, which is actually where the office is for Google here in New York. And so once I have that value in the address variable, I'm using what we call our Maps service. So this is one of those built-in services that integrates with Google Maps very easily. And so with that Maps service, I'll be creating a new static map, which is just a baked image. It's not the one where you can drag around, but just creating one of these images, these static maps, and then adding a marker to that map at the address that I chose earlier from the spreadsheet. And then the last line here, send email, you can see very easily just put in an email address and a title and then the content, and it'll send that email out. So here I'm sending an email, in this case to myself, with the title of map and then pasting in the map's URL that I just generated. So basically in what was really just 4 lines of code, I was able to do something that was very complex and that would involve many different tabs and a lot of copying and pasting to get to work without AppScript. So this gives you kind of like a quick idea of what AppScript looks like and just how powerful it is. So some other key things to know about AppScript is that you're writing scripts in the browser. This is great because you don't have to worry about setting up an environment or getting special tools. If you've done work in Java in the past, another popular language, there's a lot of work you need to do on your computer to get it ready to start building and writing code. Here, that's not required at all. All the code is written in a browser, which means you can, work on it at home, you can work on it at work, you can work at it on a Chromebook. There's not a limitation to, where you can write your code. And then, likewise, the script themselves are stored in the cloud. You can access them on any machine and easily share them with others. So collaboration is really possible here with AppScript, and you don't have to worry about, oh, well, someone made an update to the code on their machine, but I made an update on my machine. How are we going to merge these two things together? You can have one shared piece of code that everyone updates and uses. And then lastly, these scripts are run in the cloud. So you don't need to purchase or maintain servers. You don't need to really worry about having those servers secured or worry about outages. You're basically running your code in the Google Cloud, and we handle a lot of that kind of maintenance trouble for you. So I'm going to show a quick demo here of what the app. I'm going to pop that open and then just start projecting that screen. One moment. Okay. Making the font size a little larger. Everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so here's our editor. It kind of popped up in its native view. And so what we have here is a block in the middle where we type our code. On the left, an organizational tree for organizing different files. Then, a bunch of normal commands that you'd expect to see at the top: file, edit, view, etc. So what's great here is that we can just start typing code, and what I really like is the ability to autocomplete. So there's a lot of things you can do with Google AppScript, but sometimes it's hard to remember what the name of something was or how to reference a certain piece of functionality. So for instance, we have an application service built into AppScript called the Finance app. It integrates with Google Finance for pulling stock information. So if I hit F and then do a control space, which is our autocomplete shortcut, you'll see it pops up Finance app for me. And in fact, if I don't type anything, it'll show me a list of all the different applications that are available. And there's quite a long list here. So let's do that finance app. And then if I put a dot, which is JavaScript syntax for accessing a method or property of an object, it'll show me actually the different methods, properties, and parameters that are available. So in this case, for instance, like get stock info. And if I hit enter on that, it'll paste it all in there, ready for me to just fill in the different values. So in this case, stock symbol, I can do dot DGI, which is the Dow Jones Industrial. And now this command will fetch that stock information. And so you can see in just really a couple keystrokes and without having to memorize a lot of function names or object names, I can do coding straight away. And if I hit save here, I can come up with a name for this project. And then to run it, there's just a quick play button here at the top. You can select which of the functions you've written you want to run in this dropdown. Currently, there's only one. And then the play button actually runs that function. So I'm not doing anything too complex here, but you can see that's basically how the UI works. And that's the experience of writing code in AppScript. All right, I'm going to switch back now to the presentation. All right, great. So let's talk about some use cases. This is really, I think, where Google AppScript gets fun. So far it's been text in a text box, and you can see that anywhere. But the things that you can do with Google AppScript, I think, are really what separates it, and makes me very excited to work on it. So this is one that I think many of you may already be familiar with, which was an AppScript application someone wrote called Flubaroo. And it's basically a way to do quizzing using Google Forms and Google Spreadsheets. So if you've used Google Forms before, you know that it's basically a drag and drop interface for creating forms, very easy to use. And so in this case, you use those forms to create quizzes. And then using this script, you can fill in the correct answers, creating an answer key, and then send this form out to your students, have them fill it out, and then it does automatically grades the quizzes for you and even produces charts showing you, some statistics about how well the students did. So, for people in the education space, this is obviously something there are probably many, many solutions for in the industry, but this is one that can be built relatively simply using familiar technologies and not requiring any sort of obviously special licenses or setup or involvement from IT or anything like that. Another thing that's extremely popular use of Google AppScript is mail merge. This is actually not a term I was familiar with before joining the team, but it's the ability of various emailing applications or Office suites to define a template for an email or document or other piece of information, and then using that template produce multiple copies, one for each row in a spreadsheet, something like that. And so, using Google Docs and Google Spreadsheets and AppScript, you can do the same thing. And this video here, I won't play it, but illustrates one of the scripts that people have written. But there's actually many of them, ones that implement, ones that work against a draft copy of an email that you've saved, or ones that use a doc that you've saved into your Google Drive, or even a sites page. You can use a sites page to define your template and then send emails off of that. So it's a very, some of them I've seen recently actually have been really sophisticated and easy to use. Just a couple clicks and all of a sudden you're generating emails or PDFs that are kind of generated using this mail merge technique. And so that's something that we've seen a lot of interest using AppScript for. This is one that I thought was very interesting, which was Brown University's vacation calendar. So the problem here, and I've actually seen it myself, is when you have a shared calendar for vacations, it can pile up pretty quickly, right? Especially during busy vacation times of year, where so many entries are stacked on top of each other that it pushes your events almost outside the screen. And so as a way around that, they created an AppScript that when someone wants to go on vacation, they just include a special email address as a guest to that event. That email address is actually has an AppScript behind it that aggregates together all of the different vacations that people have, and then on a shared calendar just puts one entry for who's going to be out that day. And then when you click on that calendar entry, you can see at the bottom there, in the description, it'll tell you exactly who's out and for how long. So, it's kind of just one of these simple things, these simple things to kind of make your life a little bit easier. And using AppScript, they were able to come up with a solution that doesn't involve a lot of extra work and is basically, easy on the user that's going on vacation and easy on everyone else who wants to know who's on vacation. This is one that I actually saw the team put together at a hackathon we had last year, and it's a spreadsheet function called Wolf. Now there's a web program out there, a web application called Wolfram Alpha, which is basically like kind of a search engine for data only. It's basically you type in a query and it'll give you numbers and facts and figures, and they have an API that allows you to call it programmatically. And so this team at the hackathon put together a spreadsheet function that allows you to, in a spreadsheet cell, just say, equals Wolf, distance from the Earth to the Moon. You hit enter, it fetches that data and pastes it directly back into the spreadsheet again. So they have a very compelling demonstration as well. Dragging down a column, pulling cells from different columns. You could really just get a lot of valuable data really quickly without needing to go search in the text, search on the internet, paste it in. You could get this data right at your fingertips. And so this is kind of another great example of how AppScript can really simplify what would be a cumbersome process. And the amazing part, as it listed here, is it only took them a couple of hours. This hackathon, I think the coding portion was no more than 3 hours at maximum, and they came up with the idea and built it all in that short amount of time. So those are just a couple of the use cases that I chose to highlight, but there's many, many more. Some of the ones I listed here, Gmail Snooze is one that's been popular. You can apply a label to a Gmail message and then archive it, and when you that special snooze label, and then AppScript later on will find things that you've snoozed and then bring them back into your inbox. So kind of like snoozing your alarm. If you know you want to read an email but you're a little too overloaded at the moment, just put it on snooze and get to it later. For people who are admins of a Google Apps domain, there's also a ton of great things you can do with AppScript there to automate processes. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there's special functionality just for that. For integrations, there's been a lot of great ones. I actually myself wrote an AppScript that does a Twitter integration. We were running a Twitter channel where we were posting every single day, and some people just weren't on Twitter, but they still wanted to get that news. And so what I have is an AppScript that collects up a whole week's worth of tweets and then sends them out to in an email to people, so that even if Twitter, if you had Twitter open at work, maybe it doesn't look so good to your boss, you can still get that information via email in a channel that you're familiar with, and that wasn't too hard to do. And then there's a lot of people who have just really written some pretty complex, I would say almost full applications on top of AppScript that do things, like I said, listed here, like a help desk or scheduling or billing, kind of all of these tasks, and they've really kind of gotten a good end-to-end solution that go beyond just a small helper script. All right, so this is the fun part here. We're going to start writing some code. If you haven't written code live before, it's a little bit of a tense experience, but hopefully everything will go well. And so the situation that I've come up with in this example is that you have students that want to post announcements on a school-wide Google site. So there's this announcements page, but the staff doesn't want just kind of free form, whatever goes. They want to make sure that the content that's there is appropriate, school sanctioned, and just prevent abuse in general. So this is obviously a case where you need some sort of a workflow, and that's what we're going to be doing with AppScript. So I'm going to switch the presentation once again now to the code I'm going to write. All right, we're back here again. Great. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is create a spreadsheet. What I want to do here is have a form on this spreadsheet that basically just collects the information from the students. So we'll create a form. And the form name, we'll call this new announcement. And the first question here is going to be the title of the announcement. People will fill that in. And then
Jared, I don't know if you intended to show that additional screen that popped up with you creating.
You're right.
You can't see it yet.
Good point. It's hard when you have so many pop-ups. Okay, I'll switch to that just now. There we go. Sorry about that. So,
awesome. Thank you.
Creating this form, new announcement. First question here is just the title, and then our second question in the form is going to be the description of the event. And we'll make this a paragraph text. All right. So that was pretty much it. Save that form. And I want to hold on. Yeah, sorry. I was going to close this window now. And once again, share my main window. Okay. So from here, I'm just going to actually fill out the form. And we'll create a new announcement. Bake sale and cookies for sale. And submit that. This is just regular Google Apps technology right now, nothing AppScript related. But you can see it, added a new, some new columns to my spreadsheet and save the information there. So what I'd really like to do now is have someone review whether or not that submitted announcement is appropriate or not. So I'm going to create two new columns here. One is going to be approved for whether or not that isn't approved, and the other one is published. Kind of keep track of whether it was approved and whether it's gone live on the site just yet. So this is great, and with this setup alone, someone could collect information, once in a while, open this spreadsheet, look at there, read them, mark them as approved, copy and paste them to the Google site, mark them as published. Right? There's a manual process that this alone can handle. But from here is where we want to start automating with AppScript. So I'm just going to open the Google site here that I've created for this. And I have an announcements page here. So this is the page where we're going to want to post these new announcements. So now we're going to go and create our script. So when you're in a spreadsheet, to access the script, it's under Tools, Script Editor. And this is editing the script that belongs to the spreadsheet. So we've got our script open now. So the first thing we'll do is just save it, and we'll call this announcements publisher. Great. All right, and so we're going to create a custom function in here called publish that'll publish out the announcements when it's time for them to go live. So the situation is that when an announcement has been marked approved, then we want to publish it and then mark it as published. So the first thing we need to do is get a hold of the spreadsheet object itself. So create a var called spreadsheet. And I'm going to type a little fast here just because I want to make sure we get to everything. But I've been doing some kind of opening of commands and backspacing, but just I guess kind of take it as it comes and ask. There'll be time for questions later on if something wasn't very clear. So there's a function getActiveSpreadsheet, which gives me the active spreadsheet. And then a spreadsheet can contain many sheets. And so in there, we want to get access to a certain sheet. So spreadsheet.getSheetByName. Now the thing is, I didn't actually name that sheet. So if we go back to the spreadsheet, I can rename this sheet, something that I can access in my code. So we'll call this announcements. Then back in my script, I'll paste that name announcements here. And now I have access to that particular sheet in the spreadsheet. Now I need to pull the data out. To pull the data out, there's a function get. Hold on, it's get data range. So this gives me the range that contains actual data within that sheet. And then I can get the values out by doing get values. All right, so now that I have the values out, I need to loop over them because I want to go process it row by row by row. So I'll create a for loop. All right, so this is just going to go and then pull out a row from that data. Great. Now actually, that'll work. So now that I have that particular row, I'm just going to break it out into its different parts just to make it easy to reference. So the title of the announcement is in the second row, row B, but when you're coding in JavaScript, arrays start at 0. So this is actually column 0, and then B is column 1. So we'll just do title is row sub 1, and then the description is in the column 2, and whether or not it's approved or not is in row 3, and whether or not it's been published is in row 4. All right, so now we have all those different pieces of information. Now we can build some logic around that. So if it was approved, which means if there's a true in that box, actually I'm going to say if it's yes or not. Use yes instead. So if someone's marked it as approved as yes, and if published doesn't equal yes, so it's been approved but it hasn't yet been published, that's the situation where we want to do a publication. So what we can do here is we want to gain access and open up that Google site. So up above here, I'm just going to do it before my loop. I'm going to get access to my site. So my site is at sitesapp.get site, and I can pass in the name of my site. In this case, I've named my site very silly Heraclea University. So I'm just going to grab that value and paste it in here. So now I have access to my site. And the specific page that I want to access, I have to open up from my site. So I can get get child by name, where child is a page in this case. And the name of my page is up here in the URL as well, which is announcements. All right, so paste announcements in here. So now I have the announcements page open as well. So now in this loop, since I know I want to publish to that page, I can do page.createAnnouncement, passing in a title string and then some HTML. So in this case, the title I already have here. And instead of HTML, I'm just going to pass in the text that they posted into the description. And then lastly, I want to make sure that I don't republish this page again the next time that the script runs. So I need to remember to set the publish column, which is column 4, in that data, and set that to yes, to mark it as yes, it's been published. Lastly, after that whole loop runs, I need to save all that data back to the sheet again so that it remembers what I published and what I didn't. So I'm just going to do a set values, passing back in the data. All right, so if everything goes right, we should see some magic here in a moment. So to run the script, just once again hit the play button up here. See, it says running the script. Now, the first time you run a script, it's going to ask you for permission. The script is going to do things on your behalf. It's going to look like you edited the spreadsheet or you edited the site. So it needs to confirm that this is really what you want. So I'm just going to authorize the script. Sometimes you have to grant extra authorization, like on this screen. And it'll tell me that the script is ready to run. If I hit publish again, see the script run. If we look back, did not work correctly. Let me just make sure I didn't do anything wrong here. Get data range. Yep, that looks good. Oh, set values instead of value. There we go. Got to be careful with the little small typos. All right, so if we run it again. All right, good. Nothing happened. That's what we want because this event has not yet been approved. So now if I put yes in the box, and I'm just going to go to my announcements page here, make this a little bigger for you guys to see. So this is starting out with no announcements on this page. It's empty. I've just approved the announcement. And so if I hit this run button again on publish, you'll see it puts a yes in the publish box and added the new announcement here to the announcements page. So great, did what we wanted. It saw an approved announcement and it published it out and it marked it as yes, it's been published. So if I run the script again, it shouldn't publish a second copy because it's already been published once. If I refresh again, it did that. All right, great. So we've just saved someone time, right? We've taken what was a copy and paste and reduced that down to hitting a play button. But depending upon who the person is, it may be a little unfamiliar to go into this editor, hit the play button, not understand what's happening. So I think there's room to make this even simpler. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a menu to the spreadsheet. That's one of the great, showing off one of the integrations between AppScript and Google Apps. So there's a function you can create called onOpen that'll run every time someone opens the spreadsheet. And what we want to do is add a menu. So the first thing we need to do is once again get access to the spreadsheet. I'm just going to copy that from above. And now we can do spreadsheet.add menu. Call this menu I'll call it announcements. And then we're going to create our submenu. This kind of format that I'm using here is documented on our site, so you don't have to memorize things like this. And once you've done it a couple times, it becomes second nature. So the name of the submenu under that, I'm going to call publish. And I'm going to say when someone hits that publish button, run the function with the name publish. All right. I'm missing my close brace. So you can see what's nice about AppScript is as soon as you make some errors, specifically errors that are related to the JavaScript language, you get a big red error box right away. So it helps you find problems before you actually run into them. So now that I have onOpen, I'm just going to run it here manually because my spreadsheet's already open. But it'll run every time someone opens the spreadsheet. And you'll see what it did is it added a new menu item right up here on the top row of the spreadsheet. Looks like it's built right in. And under there now is a publish button. So I can start that publishing script that I just ran before right there in the spreadsheet without having to even look at code. So that makes it that much easier to kind of build these and actually make these scripts usable by people. All right, but once again, I'm not quite so happy with this. I still feel like we could do better on making this easier. For instance, right now you'd have to remember to open this spreadsheet every once in a while and go in here and see if there's something new, right? And it could be hard to remember that if you've had a busy day. So what I want to do next is make it so that when someone fills out that spreadsheet, it'll automatically email the person in charge so that they know to come and check. So I'm going to create another function here called onFormSubmit. So when someone submits a new form entry. So the first thing I got to do again is open up the spreadsheet. I'm just going to copy that and pull out that specific sheet that I want to access. I'm just going to copy some of this code again. All right, so now we have the sheet open. Now there's some special data hidden in the event object here, which is basically what they submitted. So I'm going to pull some data out of there. So the title that they just submitted is in the event parameter called title. And the description is in the event parameter description. Oh, parameter, not parameters. There we go. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to compose a message for the email body that I want to send. So my message is going to be pretty simple. I'll say something like a new announcement submitted. I'll add a new line there. And then I'll say I'm just going to paste the actual data into the spreadsheet. So here's the title, or into the email body rather. And then I'll put the title in there. And I'll add another new line character, and then I'll say the description and the description. So this is basically what's going to show up in the email body. So now that I have that, I can just send the email. Sending an email is really easy, as we've seen in the previous code. Just mailapp.send email, passing in these three fields. The recipient, which in this case, I'll send it to myself, to my test account that I'm using here. The subject is that I'll say new announcement. And then the body is going to be that message I just built above. All right. So to actually make this function run when someone submits a form, I need to do one other thing, which is to set up a trigger. So triggers are something that happens when basically when an event happens or when a certain amount of time has elapsed. It's a command to run a certain function automatically without manual intervention. So here are my current script triggers. You can see it already detected the onOpen function I made before and added that as a trigger. But now I'm going to create a new one to say run the onFormSubmit function from the spreadsheet activity called form submit. So this now kind of ties that function and that event together automatically for me. So because I added in the ability to send email, it once again needs to confirm whether or not I want to allow the script to do that. So I'm just going to reauthorize my script. And hit save again. All right, so we should be good now. So what I'm going to do is we're going to submit this form one more time. This time we'll do, let's say, pep rally. Come support the team. So, so now when I hit submit here, it once again adds it to the spreadsheet. But now if I open my Gmail, if we're lucky, nothing coming through just yet. Let me just double check that I got everything right in here. Spreadsheet, sheet, parameter. I actually don't even need the spreadsheet yet. API.equid@gmail.com. That all looks good. Just take a look at my logs there. It did. So this is something called the execution transcript that shows you what ran recently. It's not showing me that this actually ran. Let me just try to run it manually here. Yeah. Everything looks good, but I'm not getting the email. Let me just try a simpler test real quick here. Run that again. Alright, so I did get my test email. That's good. It's just not getting my actual values. So let me just check that I'm doing that part correctly. Let's see, event. Oh, right. So I was using parameter here, but that's actually the wrong name. It's supposed to be named values. Parameter is for a different function I'll be showing you later. So let's just try that form submit one more time. Go back here, and we'll call this pep rally 2. Pep rally 2 was added in, and now we have the email saying there was a new announcement, pep rally 2. So this is great because now whoever's in charge of this workflow doesn't need to remember to come in and check the sheet. But I think with AppScript we can do even better again because there's still the portion here where you need to go to your drive, find the spreadsheet, open it up, find the row, right? It's that much more work just to approve a given announcement when you have all the data right in front of you in your inbox. So the last part we're going to do here is make it so that with one click inside the email, they can approve that announcement automatically. So to do that, we're going to build a small UI for our application. And you do that by implementing a function called doGet. So in here, I am once again going to need to open up the spreadsheet. Actually, do I? Yes, I do. And I need to pull out parameters from this. So actually, let me do it the other way first. So the first thing we need to do in form submit is we need to, in this message, add in a link or a URL that someone can click on to actually do the approval. So to get that URL, what I need to do is publish this script as a service. Publish as a service. And this provides me a URL that I can access the script using. So I'll just save that here. Var URL. And there's that long URL. So in the message now, I'm just going to include an extra line for that approval URL. So say approve, and then I'll paste in that URL. Now the thing is that I need to actually pass in a couple extra parameters to this URL so that when someone submits the form and then I approve it, it knows which entry I'm talking about. So I'm just going to add in a little extra data to this URL. So up above, I'm going to say up to the end of this URL, I'm just going to append some extra data. So I'm going to call spreadsheet ID, and I'm going to take the ID of my spreadsheet. And then I'm also going to add on a second parameter to this URL, which is the row that that person just created. So the row here is going to be sheet get last row, because they just created that last row. All right, so that'll now send the email with this appropriate URL. But now I need to build the function that actually does something when someone hits that URL. So that's what I'm going to be doing down here. So again, I'll take this line above to get the access to the spreadsheet and access to that sheet. See a lot of the same code again and again right there. And so we need to pull out now, when they click that link, we need to get that row back out from the URL and get it back into data that I can use. So this is where I call event.parameter and rip out the row value. And the spreadsheet ID, which I also passed in my URL, I need to pull that out of the URL. So event.parameter, spreadsheet ID. All right, we have the pieces of data we need. Now we can start doing something with it. So first we're going to do is pull up that row. So we're going to get the range, and there's a row column format we're going to use. So we have the row already, and the column we want to basically set the approved column to yes. So as we saw before, approved is column D, or number 3 if you're numbering starting with 0. So pull out column 3, and we will set the value of that column, that cell, to yes. And then we're just going to show somebody a quick screen saying, that was successful. And we're going to do that by creating a quick UI. So there's a UI application. Allows you to build very complex UIs, all sorts of custom forms with very interesting behavior. We're going to use a very simple bit of that right now. I'm just going to create a small label. And then that label, just going to say that it was successful. The announcement was approved. And then we're going to add that label to the application, and then return that application. All right, great. So I think that's everything we need to do now. I'm just going to run this function again to make sure there's no extra approvals needed. We're good. All right, so let's see if I can put it all together. Everybody cross their fingers. So let's fill out this form one more time, the third pep rally of the day. And we've got a new row in our sheet. We have a new email. That email now has this new link built in, which is that one that I made up, which points back to my application. So you can see that right now approved is empty, but everything goes right, and I click this link. Oh no, cannot find get sheet by name. You're right. I forgot to pass in a value. So when I was in here, I can't call that active spreadsheet anymore. That's why I passed the spreadsheet ID in here. I have to get a spreadsheet by name or by ID. So luckily I passed that ID with me, which is this one here. And I'm going to paste that in right there. All right. Now that that's fixed, let's give this one more go with Pep Rally 4. Pep Rally 4. Pep Rally 4 email. Click the link. The announcement was approved. And if we go back, oh, I put it in the wrong column. I put the yes over here in the description instead of the approved. But I think you get the idea. I just need to change this row from a 3 to a 4. Because I forgot, when you're talking about get range, they actually start numbering with 1. But you basically see that what we could do with just now completely automated, right? Someone fills out a form. The form sends an email. The email has a link to approve it. And then for the actual publication itself, we can set up one more trigger on our script. Instead of doing it when a certain event happens, we can say run publish time-driven, let's say every hour. And so now you can click that link in your email, mark it as approved, and the next time that publish script runs, it'll scoop it up and push it out to the sites. So now everything can be done without even looking at code, without looking at a spreadsheet. It's all automated. It's all in the Google Apps products that people already are using every day.
That's awesome, Eric.
All right, so that's the end of my little demo there. I'm just going to switch back to my slides to close it out.
So yeah, we have about 15 minutes left, so probably want to get over to questions soon.
Yep. So this is just for people who are looking to get started on AppScript. You know, I ran through things pretty quickly there, but I just wanted to show you what was possible. We have a ton of documentation on our site, which is developers.google.com/appscript. We've got a ton of different tutorials that even show you more code like this, kind of going step by step through what you're doing and why you're doing it. We have some videos up on YouTube that you can take a look at for other kind of demonstrations. We're on Stack Overflow, which is a very tech-friendly community for answering questions. And so Googlers are on there, and people who just love AppScript are on there asking questions. They're very active, and so if you run into a problem or you want to know how to do something, it's a very good way to get an answer. We also have a blog that we publish updates on when new features are available. And finally, there's this great thing called the script gallery that I didn't demonstrate. But it basically is a way for people to publish scripts that they've written and share them with the world. And with just a click, you can install them into your spreadsheet, start looking at what they did, how they did it, and go from there. So there's really some great tools to get started. All right, and now let's spend some time on Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. I think you already answered some questions with that last slide, actually. I saw a few people ask, oh, where can I submit scripts I've made, or where can I find others that have made them? So actually, a quick question for you. For these slides, do you think that we will be able to make a public version of them and we can share them out?
Definitely. I'll publish it out and put it on the comments of this
Awesome.
Hangout.
Great. Thank you. So earlier, Timothy in the Hangout, I don't know if you want to ask your question about voice, or I can do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think well, from what I understand, I think mobile devices might be something that are going to be used in classrooms a lot more. And so, for example, if I wanted to push out a quiz to students, whether it's an iPod or a cell phone or whatever, or an iPad or something, or a Zoom tablet, I wanted to push out a quiz by sending using Google Voice. Is there AppScript integrate with Google Voice so that I can get those form functions integrated with Google Voice to send text messages?
So currently there is no text message support in Google AppScript. You know, it's one of the things that I think we talk about from time to time, and we're going to continue to look into. But you know, there are real-world costs to sending text messages, and so that's something.
What about email?
Yeah. So email, as I demonstrated in there, is just a quick, very quick function to call. There are limitations on how many emails you can send a day. We want to make sure spammers don't get a hold of this technology. But for any reasonable sort of script you're building, you can send it, you know, a large amount of email per day.
Okay.
And just one more thing on the mobile side, since you brought that up. You know, what's great about Google Sites is that it has a good mobile experience, right? Instead of everybody building their own mobile experience from scratch, Google Sites decides to build it once and allow you to just utilize that. And so we're seeing a lot of people utilizing Google Sites as a way to deliver good mobile content. And there's the ability to embed custom AppScript forms and power right into a Google site itself. So there's really some interesting work there that can be done.
What about drop-down menus into the spreadsheet, so that or the form, so that students can select from a list of different options?
Yeah. So the form builder that's built into spreadsheets is somewhat limited in that you have to type in every value. But when you're using the
for example, like the students, like a list of students, and they can choose their name from a list of students in the form.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to get to, is that when you're building a form using AppScript, which has some of that UI capabilities I just barely touched on, you can make that pull from data from anywhere. So you can, if you have Google Apps for your domain, you can actually pull out the different users in your domain and put that into a drop-down list. You could pull information from some third-party service and put that into a drop-down. So the possibilities there are much more broad.
Okay.
Great.
I guess that a unique identifier, so that I can so that the people who enter stuff into the form, is there a way that I can uniquely identify each of those submissions?
Yeah, luckily that's actually built right into the Google Forms technology when you have it on a apps for your domain. I was using the public version here, so it wasn't an option. But there's actually an option to have the user's email address recorded when they submit the form automatically and in a way that they can't tamper with.
So that's within, for emails that are within that domain.
Exactly.
Not just, okay.
Yeah, it won't work for public, but if you if you have someone logged into that domain and they're filling out the form on that domain, then it'll record that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So should I jump out of the Hangout so someone else can jump in now?
Yeah, that would be ideal, but
Okay.
thank you so much for your question.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hangbo, did you want to ask your question directly, or do you want me to relay to you?
Yeah, it's okay. It's just you can relay my question because I'm kind of in the middle of something else.
Okay. So can AppScript be used to add an approval workflow to Google Docs?
Yeah, so I think what we just kind of saw there was an approval workflow. So I think you accurately predicted my example today. But that was just one small example, and you can really extend that well beyond what I showed and get that into other types of Google Docs or other types of data. So certainly possible.
Cool. And then John asked, I actually think you already answered the question, are there any sites that serve as a repository for people who have created AppScript? So probably the script gallery.
Yeah, Script Gallery is built right into Google Apps Script. If you have a spreadsheet open and you go Tools, Script Gallery, pops right in. You can do searches, you can find scripts, install them. It's pretty easy.
Cool. So for any of you all out in the live stream, please continue to submit any questions you have on the comments section of the Hangout. I'll be looking at those. I'm looking at some pre-submitted questions from the form we had. I've seen a few questions from printing. Are there any variables or functions with printing, kind of printing a summary of actions or things like that?
You think they're meaning about like a physical printer printing, or?
Yeah, like be able to view a printable summary of responses from a user before sending those responses into a spreadsheet.
I see. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I think when you're using Google Docs and you want to do printing, there's a lot of things there that you can do. So, for instance, you can gather up information, put it in a Google Doc, and then print that Google Doc. I think actually sending it to your printer can't be controlled by Google Apps Script. I don't think they want scripts printing paper everywhere accidentally. But yeah, there's certainly a lot of ability there to work with printed materials as well.
Cool. And then what about combining multiple sheets within a spreadsheet into a brand new spreadsheet or a brand new sheet within a spreadsheet? How can you combine multiple types of data?
Yeah, that's one of the things that is really good about working with AppScript and spreadsheets is that spreadsheet functions, even for me, I find them complicated to use and remember what they do sometimes. Merging data from two sheets, it can get challenging. But with AppScript, you're not limited to just the certain strange functions that are built in. You can build your own more complex functions, and you can do a lot of things that go well beyond what you can just do built in. So what I showed you earlier, where I had an email set a field in a spreadsheet for me, right? When I click the link, you can do way beyond that. So you could scan all of the data in a spreadsheet, change it, manipulate it, save it back to a new sheet, copy sheets. All that functionality is there. You do have to know what you want and build it, but with AppScript, you're not that far away from actually getting there.
And then I want to open it up to people in the Hangout. Were there any questions that you all wanted to ask before I continue going back to the queue?
You may be muted as well, just to be aware.
Okay, I'm going to continue looking in the queue, but feel free to pop in and mute yourself if you have any questions. Someone asked about App Engine. Is it possible to create any scripts with AppScript that might integrate with App Engine?
So there's no built-in functionality that integrates with App Engine like there is for Gmail or sites or spreadsheets. But that's not to say you can't build an integration. So with App Engine, you can take any kind of data you want and return any sort of data that you want. Essentially, and what a lot of people have done is build APIs on top of their App Engine that take in commands and return data. So using the functionality in AppScript, you can make a call out to your App Engine instance, your App Engine server, pull some data in, send some data there. So there's definitely a bridge. That bridge just isn't pre-built for you.
Okay. And then someone asked, So they've been looking at AppScript for administrative things like mail merge and mass emailings, things like that. And they're definitely interested in AppScript, but they think their users would be scared of it because of the coding nature. Are there any intentions down the road of building something a little bit more user-friendly, maybe similar to App Inventor?
Yeah, so obviously being user-friendly is an important part, right? You can build really complicated code, but there are a lot of people who are just going to be so afraid they're going to break something that they might not even hit the button. So that's something we have focused on, and I think that's solved in a few ways. One, as I demonstrated, is building custom menus into spreadsheets. Very approachable, very easy to use. The next is building custom UIs, which, as I mentioned, I just barely touched on. But there's really the ability there to add buttons, text boxes, labels, all the sorts of things you'd want to see in a real application. And we even have something that I didn't demonstrate called the UI Builder, which takes it, instead of building a UI by typing the code to add a certain button here, add a certain label there, it's actually a drag and drop interface where you pick out a button, move it onto the screen, pick out a text box, move that onto the screen. So making UIs is something that takes a little bit of upfront investment, but then makes your functionality much more easy to access. And then that last bit I showed of publishing as a service, I kind of glossed over that. But that's the idea where you can take then this UI you built, pull it out of a spreadsheet, and just make it behind a URL. So that URL can be linked from anywhere, and anyone can access it without even needing access to a spreadsheet. So those are some of the ways that we've tried to address making things more user-friendly.
Cool. Someone asked about signing of scripts. If you have developers coming and going, someone creates a script, publish it, and then leaves, or their account is suspended or deleted, what happens to your script? Is there a way to authorize someone else to access it or delegate access? Yeah,
so if the script is just something that you have in-house, that script lives most often in a spreadsheet. And so if you share that spreadsheet with somebody, then they get the script along with it. So, just I guess if you're worried about someone's actual spreadsheet data being lost, the same solution applies to losing their scripts. You can preserve them that way. And so now if you're talking about publishing in the gallery, it is tied to the person who submitted it. So if that person goes away, I think it could be hard for you to automatically kind of work with their gallery entry, but that's why we're here on the team. If you reach out to us, we can help you remove stale things from the gallery or replace it with a newer version that someone else has worked on from your organization.
Someone asking about limitations. Are there any best practices or tips on avoiding any either API limitations or AppScript limitations or application limitations?
Yeah, so we definitely want to make things very, very easy, and part of making things easy is we have to put safety limitations on to make sure that scripts don't go crazy. If we didn't put any limitations on, someone could just write a script that ran forever and use up a ton of power. So we do put limitations, and it's really for not only for the best for Google, but it's best for you just to make sure that you don't make a mistake that then causes a lot of problems, sends out 100 emails to your boss in 5 seconds. So those limitations definitely exist, and we've just, I think within the last week or two, published what we call the AppScript dashboard, which says for each type of activity that we put a limit on, here's your limit per day. So how many emails can you send per day? How many new spreadsheets can you create a day? Things like that. And best practices is, I guess just try to be careful. When you're writing your code, test. Try testing with one thing first before you try testing with 100 to make sure you don't use up and go beyond that limit. I'd say the limit that can be a problem for someone more often than not is the total script execution limit. Basically, your script can only run for about 5 minutes. If you have so much work to do, it takes longer than 5 minutes, you just kind of cut you off middle of the way through. It's a little frustrating, but we just want to make sure scripts don't get out of control. And there are some techniques you can use to do longer processes by chaining together multiple 5-minute executions. And so we have some information about that on our documentation, and it's something that you can definitely do.
Cool. I saw a question come in the chat, and also similar in the forum, about time-driven triggers. Can you set like an email to go out at a certain time or at a weekly time?
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of did that right at the very end of my demonstration, but you can set up a time-driven trigger based on per hour, per day, if I think down to as small as per 5 minutes. That will do something. And you can, for the ones that it's like per day, you can choose, I want it to be around 12 a.m. midnight or want it to be around 5 p.m. in the afternoon, we kind of give you like an hour where it may or may not happen. We have a lot of emails to send, so we can't guarantee you down to the minute, but it is possible to schedule not just emails, but any sort of script execution to happen at a certain time.
Awesome. I think we only have room for one more question. I think one big thing is a lot of people are still new to AppScript, and probably the most people that I saw sign up on the forum said, hey, I just want to learn, this is awesome, but I don't really know much. What do you recommend for the novice, someone who's probably never really coded before? You know, what's the first 1 to 2 things that they should do to get started?
Yeah, so I think the first great thing is learning by example. You know, as much as you can pick up a textbook and learn, actually seeing something that works and being able to read each line and understand it, it gets you the furthest. So looking at the tutorials we put together, or just downloading things from the gallery and opening them up, I think that's a good way to get familiar with what AppScript looks like and what code looks like. After that, I would say, you know, having a good understanding of JavaScript or basic coding practices will help. You know, there's a lot of strange things in coding that you just have to learn over time, and doing some of those sites like the W3 schools or the Code Academy are a really great way to learn at least the basics of doing if statements for conditions, doing loops where you need to do multiple activities. Once you have those fundamentals down, then it's all just a matter of learning, you know, which of the various AppScript services do I want to use to do some awesome technology. So I think that's probably a good order to kind of take these different, take things in.
Cool. All right, looks like we're out of time. So thank you again, Eric, for taking the time to talk to us about AppScript and show us some awesome demos. We look forward to the public presentation version, so I'm sure people will want to follow up and see the examples and check out the galleries and all that. So thank you so much for putting that together and sharing that with us. And thanks to all of you in the Hangout and watching on the live stream for tuning in. We hope that this was helpful and inspired some new ideas of how you can leverage AppScript. So thanks again, everyone.
All right, thank you, Jordan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.